This episode of WDW Today is being sponsored by All-Star Vacation Homes. And if you're considering a trip to Walt Disney World and you're thinking to yourself, spending a week or longer in a value-sized room isn't really what you were thinking of when you thought of a great Disney World vacation, but you still want to go to Disney World, you just don't want to have to pay a lot of money for a lot of space. Well, All-Star Vacation Homes are the perfect opportunity for you. In fact, you're going to get a whole house to yourself. There's so many different opportunities, different arrangements, structures with the different houses. And you know what? The best part? It's the price. It's a fraction of what you would cost you to get that kind of space and amenities on Walt Disney World properties. So check them out. Just go to www.allstarvacationhomes.com.
Bringing the world to your world, this is Walt Disney World Today. Here are Mike Scopa, Len Testa, Mike Newell, and your host, Matt Hochberg.
It's Friday, October 15th, 2010, and this is episode 786 of WDW Today. I'm Matt Hochberg from StudiosCentral.com. Joining me on today's show is Mike Scopa, a senior feature writer and blogger for allears.net. Welcome, Mike.
My voice may not be so marvelous, but my profile is out of this world.
I know it's a Billy Crystal impersonation, but what was he in Disney World?
No.
Noel, do you have any idea?
That was Billy Crystal.
It wasn't supposed to be Billy Crystal.
No offense,
I have
Mike.
no idea.
I don't know.
Oh, I know what it is. Come on, the bird show, Tiki Room.
Yeah, the Bird Show.
The Bird Show. I love that
The
name.
Bird Show.
No, it's not Flights of Wonder. No.
Only Walt Disney himself worked on it. Yeah, that Bird Show.
The bird show. My brain works in pictures. It's like the Denny's menu up there.
I'll take this and one of these.
I'll have one of those.
Marvelous.
It was the Tiki Room.
Yes, it was.
The Bird Show.
There you go. Pat myself on the back. Also joining us on today's show is Mike Newell of MouseWorldRadio.com. And Mike, our next live show is on Sunday, October 24th at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. Are you excited?
Yeah, I'm always excited about live shows.
When everything works.
We've been pretty good last few ones. And now that I'm back to Windows XP, everything seems to be smooth.
It's time for another bug show. Go somewhere where there's lots of bugs.
Oh, no, thank you. Also joining us on today's show is the fabulous Annette Owens, a manager of customer relations and group services for MEI and Mouse Fan Travel. Welcome back to the show, Annette.
Hey, nice to be here. And hey, I love the fact that we're making sure that Halloween night we can all go get our chocolate candy from door to door and not be doing a live show.
That's right. We've got to look out for each other.
I like that.
And also joining us on today's show is Fred Hazelton, the master statistician for touringplans.com. Touringplans.com. Is that good, Henry? Welcome to the show, Fred.
I'm sure Henry will be very happy.
Oh, very good.
Did you get scolded?
That's my goal in life, make Henry happy.
Did you get
Mine
scolded?
too.
Make Henry happy.
Henry's been working pretty hard this week. We just announced the Disneyland site at touringplans.com.
Woot.
So all our West Coasters can go check that out. It's free for now.
Go check it out in your house.
Go now, what?
See what it's all about?
Newell's just printing off touring plans, never has no intention of going, but, just in case.
I'm not going to Disneyland.
On today's show, we're going to be talking about this is a theoretical show more than anything. It was actually spawned by touringplans.com, the aforementioned touringplans.com. And Fred we were talking before the show and we thought this might be a good idea because Fred, you had made an interesting observation and this got us thinking. But why don't you start with your interesting observation and we'll go from there.
Well, this week, as in every week, I'm always up to my neck in wait times from all our great Lines users. And we noticed this week that the Fastpass distribution at Toy Story Mania has been off the charts, like some of the fastest sellouts since we've been tracking wait times, which goes all the way back to around June 2006. Mm-hmm. So we started to investigate to see why this is happening, and it turns out there's a couple things going on here. One thing is that crowds are a little bit bigger than expected, but also that there's been some internal sort of tinkering with the ratio of Fastpass guests to standby guests, specifically for Toy Story Mania, right. And that has meant that the number of Fastpasses they're giving out has been a lot less. So it kind of raised the question, sort of what is Fastpass? Is it working? Does it work? And what would it be like if it was never there?
Yeah, and that's exactly the point there. So we're thinking, what what if we got rid of Fastpass today? What would Disney World be like? Now, let me be perfectly clear. There are no plans for Fastpass to go anywhere. And I would bet my entire life that it will never go anywhere, at least not going to be totally removed. But we were thinking, what if it got removed? What if? This is a what if kind of show. As we started thinking, so let's start out with, in the year 2010, Mike Scopa, where do you see Fastpass? What's its impact been, and do you think it's accomplished what it set out to do?
Well, I think the original objective was there were two objectives, Matt. I think number one, to do something that would be a win-win situation for both Walt Disney World and the Walt Disney World guests. Obviously, if you have an opportunity as a guest to save some time and not spend a lot of time waiting in a queue line for an attraction, that's going to be looked upon as being goodness. It's good PR. So for the guest, if I'm a guest and I don't want to stand in line for an hour and a half waiting for Toy Story Mania, I'll get a Fast Pass, providing I get there before 9 o'clock to get the Fast Pass. And then when it's my time, boom, I'm only there for hopefully 15, 20 minutes. So that's one thing. The other thing is I think that Walt Disney World thought that, well, if a guest is in line, they're idle. They're not doing anything. They're not spending money. They're not looking at souvenirs. They're not eating in a restaurant. So I think that there was a twofold objective there. Number one, PR, and number two, to make sure that wallet's not that idle. If you're standing in line, you're not spending money. So I think that's what it is. Now, if you take that away today, I think two things. Number one, I think that there'll be an uproar from the crowd. It's like, why did you do that? Now I have to waste my time, blah, blah, blah. I don't know if there's ever been a way for Walt Disney World to measure the impact of the Fast Passes on revenue. So I don't know. I don't know how that would go. But if they did take it away, there would be an uproar. But I tend to believe that the lines may actually move faster.
What's your take on Fastpass, Fred?
Well, there's no question that the standby line would move by faster. But, I mean, the number of people that the attraction would process in a given day would still be the same.
Well, explain that. Back it up for a second, Fred, because you make a good point. But I know there are people out there that say, what do you mean it would be faster? Doesn't Fastpass make things faster? How does it – I'm just trying to explain to our listeners who may be confused on that how the standby line is faster without Fastpass.
Well, because if you picture the cast member that's shuffling people from the queue onto the ride, they're usually dealing from two different lines. They're taking a certain number of people from the Fastpass line, and they're taking a certain number of people from the standby line, and they're doing that in a set ratio. So for every person that's coming in from the Fastpass line, that takes the spot of somebody that would have come in from the standby line. So if you can imagine there was no Fastpass line, if it didn't exist, then the people coming in from the standby line would be taken in at a higher rate. So overall, the wait times in the standby line would be lower.
Right. Very good.
Yeah, but the thing is that with the Fastpass, I mean, basically what they're trying to do, like Mike said, is lower the average amount of time that a guest is going to wait in line. I mean, and this is something that every theme park in the history of time has tried to do, and I think it's because it's the number one complaint of anybody that's a guest is that they don't want to spend that amount of time waiting in line. So what Fastpass does is it allows you to spend that time rather than standing in a line waiting somewhere else in the park. Because if you think about it, like if I get a Fastpass at 10 o'clock in the morning and it says, come back at noon, then really the amount of time I'm waiting is 2 hours. It's just that I'm not waiting that 2 hours in line. I'm waiting it by doing something else.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right, Fred, that it doesn't really matter if there's Fast Pass or not, because the attractions can only, for an example, let's take, for example, Soarin'. It takes approximately, maybe 2 or 3 minutes to load. Then it's about a 4 minute and 45 second movie, and then another 2 minutes to unload. And they can only process so many guests per hour. And so the Fast Pass has no impact on the ability of an attraction to increase the number of guests. It just shifts how the guests approach the attraction.
It's interesting because when it first came out, what it did was that it gave a huge advantage to those people that you knew how to use the Fastpass system. I mean, if you're using Fastpass, you're gaining huge amount of sort of real estate if you look at the amount of time you're spending in line in a given day. But what people sometimes forget is that it punishes those who don't use it. Those who use standby lines exclusively are going to be waiting a lot longer than those than those who know how to optimally use the Fastpass.
Right.
Well, in the beginning, I got to say, in the beginning, when it was fairly new, I'm old enough to remember that. You had a lot of people that didn't understand the process. So anybody using the Fastpass, that was like gold.
Yeah. I think there's still definitely people who don't understand that there's many, many, many people, vast majority I would say in the park, do not know how Fastpass works or that it exists. And these are the average Joes that show up at 10 a.m. and bought the tickets at the turnstile that day. Those
just didn't do the homework before going.
No one's listening to the show, but at least I hope not. The interesting thing about Fastpass is I think we talked about, Mike, you mentioned earlier what Fastpass started out with and what it's become. And there's no doubt in my mind, I mean, Fastpass has become a great tool for families who don't want to wait in line. You go get Fastpass for Space Mountain, and then you can go ride with no wait. So the waiting time is diminished on there. But I think what Fred brought up about the efficiency of the rides really has something to say. I mean, I'll take Toy Story Midway Mania as an example. When Toy Story was first opened, before it was officially opened, it had a couple weeks of soft opening previews, which means the attraction wasn't technically open. It could close at any time, but it was still open, running every day, but didn't have Fastpass on there. So this is a couple weeks with no Fastpass at all, just a standby line. And during those weeks, the standby wait time for Toy Story rarely exceeded 40 to 50 minutes. But now with Fastpass in there, the standby wait times for Toy Story, I mean, I don't have to tell you, anyone who's been to Walt Disney World in the past year and a half, 2 years knows that the wait times regularly exceed 70 to 90 minutes for the attraction, and it's because of Fastpass, because it takes away from the standby line, makes the standby line longer, and I think the same would hold true for an attraction like Soarin'. But what about the other attractions? Let's talk about like Splash Mountain, Space Mountain, Haunted Mansion has Fastpass, right?
Only seasonally, and it doesn't operate that often.
Yeah. I mean, what about those attractions?
Yeah, it definitely works better the higher the capacity of the ride. So something like Space Mountain, Fastpass works better, I find.
Right.
Because it's going to sort of lessen this problem of the ratio of Fastpass to standby guests.
Yeah.
But when you have something like Toy Story Mania or like Soarin' that you mentioned, when you're, it's a slow loader, it can't process a ton of people, then you're going to be kind of punished.
Yeah. It's interesting. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say that it's kind of an interesting difference how corporate Disney treats Fastpass. If you look at Disneyland out in California, they have a much different attitude. They don't use Fastpass nearly as much, and they didn't use it for Toy Story Mania at Disney's California Adventure. It's an attraction that doesn't have a Fastpass, and now it's you can't really compare it directly. But like you said, Matt, the wait times there are only peaking at like 45, 50, maybe 60 minutes.
Right.
Even on some of the busier days at DCA. So it's kind of interesting.
What's also interesting is the studio's in a microcosm because technically there's a number of attractions that use Fastpass, but they actually don't. Muppet Vision 3D started out as a Fastpass attraction. That's been gone for a long time now. Star Tours, when it was open, Indiana Jones, Epic Spectacular, Voyage of the Little Mermaid, and Lights, Motors, Action are all labeled as Fastpass attractions. They haven't used Fastpasses in years. Literally years. They just have the drapes over them. And why? Because they don't need them. But Disney has to know. Oh, go ahead.
I don't know why any show would have Fastpass. I never understood that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just they keep them there and they keep technically their Fastpass attractions simply because Disney has to maintain a certain amount of attractions in the for guests, be like to advertise. Hey, we've got Fastpass, and you'll have at least X amount of attractions or whatever percentage, however they do it. Are Fastpass attractions. So it's interesting that the only really two attractions in the studios, for instance, that really I think make a difference and perhaps even improve the guest wait time is Toy Story, because if you get a Fastpass, it's obviously a lot faster. And Rocket and Roller Coaster, I think, does definitely have an impact on there. Tower of Terror, I think, could go either way. But it's kind of interesting that some attractions like Haunted Mansion you mentioned earlier, Fred, they really rarely use Fastpass, and it's because in many cases it's not really necessary because if anything, they just slow everything down.
Yeah.
No, what's your thoughts on Fastpass, where it's been, where it's going?
One thing I've always wanted to see Disney do, and I know I'm gonna get a lot of heat for this, but something along the line of a premium Fastpass, where you would pay, to get even faster than the general Fastpass. I've always
You mean like what Universal does?
something like that. Yeah, maybe for
Universal Express.
Yeah, DVC guests or resort guests in general. That we can get a little bit of a perk.
I would say it's interesting you bring that up, Mike, because I would say that Disney, on the whole, when you compare it to its competition, Disney has the most egalitarian fast pass system out there. I mean, Six Flags, Universal, any other theme park I've been to, they all have their own editions of fast pass, but they require some sort of a purchase or a upgrade fee. There's a way to buy your way ahead of the line, like you're suggesting, and Disney's the exception to that, which is kind of interesting.
Right.
You know why, Matt? I think because they feel maybe that would be something that a lot of people would take advantage of, and there would not be any. There may be not a general advantage for the guests in general. I mean, sort of like. I kind of think there was ever any real advantage for any of the guests with the single rider line. I think that's a complete waste. I'm not sure how that works into it too. But I think that it's the same thing. It's like there's no real gain for the general guest experience, and that they probably think that there would be more disgruntled people if that happened because of all the wait times would probably be even worse. It'd be like being at Mouse Fest and we're going on the Kilimanjaro Safari ride, and there's someone who's been in the queue line for a long time, and a whole bunch of us, 256 of us, get on something like, I don't know, 15 or 18 ride vehicles while this one person who was at the front of the line had to wait for about 20 minutes while we did that. Think of it that way.
Well, I think also Disney likes for everybody to feel special, and if you have a select few that have this, that you weren't here early enough to purchase this ultimate fast pass or whatever, there's like a distinction between your guest and the park too.
Right.
Yeah. I remember back when it first came out, there were stories about people walking through the fast pass line getting booed by the standby guests.
Newell.
It's like,
Hey,
Why were you booing, Newell?
I was waiting there for a long time.
yeah.
It'd be. Go ahead, Matt.
I was going to say, I don't boo people, but I do look at them with disdain when I'm sitting in the standby line.
But
it's just
why?
jealousy.
I mean, yeah, that's
But
all it
everybody
is.
does that.
Yeah, everybody does that, yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's
Can you imagine if they had to pay for it, though? Boy, you could really, really lay into them.
Yeah. The big thing, the average people that use FastPass, people I think that really enjoy it are the people that, the families, like I said, they don't want to wait in line. They can't wait in line. They would prefer not to wait in line with their young children when it's an issue. And the standby lines may be longer overall, but they're willing to forego that because they can, actually ride, 45 minutes may be too long for some people. Maybe for some people 20 minutes is too long for a wait. And that's another issue, how long is too long of a wait? Because, for me, I would say that a wait time of 40 minutes or under is an acceptable wait time for a popular attraction, like a top tier headliner attraction, not for Star Tours. But that being said, there's some people who say, well, anything more than a 15-minute wait is too much for them, and that's something that I think also comes into play when we're talking about FastPass's effect of the parks.
Yeah, that's a neat. At Disneyland Paris, what they do is, I was telling you before, Matt, is that the FastPass line, all it does is that it's a separate line that takes you, that merges with the standby line at the point where you would wait 10 minutes. So there's really no, there's no separate FastPass line. It's not like you're getting to the front of the ride, and this problem of the distribution is in a sense it's gone because you all you do is it just means you're going to wait a maximum of 10 minutes.
What are you thinking, Ed? I mean, would you be in favor of getting rid of FastPass?
I think I've just personally, with coming with groups and stuff, we definitely have used the FastPass to be able to do a little bit more in the parks. So for us, we've used it to its fullest potential. But, I think there's some guests that definitely, they don't get quite the bang for the buck for it. It depends on how you're using it. If you're using it around Fantasyland, I don't know.
Fred, you crunched the numbers. Let me throw this at you and tell me what you think of this. What would happen to the wait lines, or what do you think would happen to the wait lines if Disney said, okay, starting tomorrow, Fastpass will still be available, but you can get Fastpass distribution only until noon. At noon, all the Fastpass machines will be turned off. They'll be covered. There will be no Fastpass distribution after noon, after 12 o'clock. So, in other words, if you want to ride something later on in the day, you'd have to get your Fastpass in the morning. Do you think that would impact the queue lines at all?
Oh, that's interesting. Because what I'm picturing is that it means that, so if you get a Fastpass, like the last Fastpass of the day would be whatever the return time is at noon.
But you can go anytime after that time, too.
Right. So you're going to spread people out from noon right to the end of the day. And so, yeah, that would be interesting. It might actually lower wait times at the sort of the second half of the day in the standby line, because it's going to limit the number of people that actually have a Fastpass in their hand.
The question would be, though, would it be fair to say you can only get one? Maybe you can get one Fastpass per hour, like between 9 and 10. Well, I don't know. You'd have to tweak that a little bit. But I'm wondering if after, in the afternoon, the late afternoon, early evening, when those queue lines really get long, that's where the impact would be felt. Yeah,
that would be interesting. And that would kind of, in a sense, it would do the same thing that the Fastpass did, where it would keep people in the park longer, to wait out that sort of peak part of the day. It's interesting. I mean, you talk about, Matt, that it's always going to be there, and I suspect it will, but it's gone through a lot of changes if you look back from the beginning. I remember when we first started to track Fastpass times, I actually came up with a statistic that said that 7% of the time, the Fastpass return time was actually meant a shorter wait than the standby line. So, a few years ago, they kind of changed the start time for like when you got the very first Fastpass of the day, because there was, like I said, 7% of the time, like the Fastpass might say, if you get a Fastpass now, you come back in a half an hour, but it was a 40-minute wait in the standby line. You'd actually be better off to get a Fastpass and wait outside the attraction. So, I'm not surprised that they're tinkering with it now at Toy Story Mania, because it's not quite reached that point of perfection yet, I don't think.
I just think attractions like Toy Story and Soarin', they're the outliers. They're just they're so incredibly popular in itself that they break the Fastpass model. Because the Fastpass model, I think, works great on, Space Mountain, Splash Mountain, Tower of Terror. These attractions, I think the Fastpasses usually last well until the afternoon. The standby wait times, short of, the really busy times of the year, like Easter, Christmas, New Year's, the standby wait times are usually reasonable within, relative to the time of the year. But Toy Story and Soarin' are the weirdos. They're the ones that, no matter, it could be January 12th, which is a dead time of the year, and you'll still have a 60-minute wait on those attractions.
Yeah. In fact, if you go at a busy time at the studios, if you're there in the first 20 minutes, the wait time to get a Fastpass is about the same as the wait time if you were going to get in the standby line. Because you've seen those lines. It's like it's a 20-minute wait just to get your Fastpass.
Yeah. Oh, it's crazy. The line usually.
Oh, yeah.
The line for Toy Story Midway Mania usually goes all the way back to Voyage of the Little Mermaid for Fastpass.
To get a Fastpass.
And not the line to get on the attraction. The line for the Fastpass goes all the way that far back, and it's it's a kind of interesting, because before that, I never thought they would actually get an attraction that would help take the crowds away from Sunset Boulevard, but they figured something out.
They did that, yeah.
Let me ask you guys this. Speaking of Fast Passes, and you do have to go to the attractions to get the Fast Passes, and sometimes, what a hassle to go all the way down to Soarin' to get the Fast Pass to turn around and come back out. I mean, what do you think about, if they were to put those in a little more accessible places?
They tried that at Animal Kingdom not too long ago, didn't they? They did, like last year or 2 years ago, they did a test where they had all the Fast Pass machines. I believe it was over by It's Tough to Be a Bug on Discovery Island. So they had a centralized Fast Pass distribution. Nothing ever came of that.
I just think there's some of them, like Soarin', that, you have the issues with getting down to it anyway.
I just
you always have the crowds going down the escalators and back up. It's just a long way to go to find out that they're out of fast passes.
Well, it's an interesting topic, and always good sometimes to dive into the what ifs. And I think that'll wrap it up for us today, though. I want to thank our sponsor, of course, All Star Vacation Homes. And hey, there's no denying the savings that All Star Vacation Homes is going to offer you. Lots of great space, lots of great amenities, and you know what? Fraction of the price of Disney World. You're going to get lots of all that stuff: the private pool, full-size kitchen, movie room, game room, bathrooms for everybody. This is the kind of stuff you're going to be getting, and the prices. You can't believe how great the prices are. Go check them out online. www.allstarvacationhomes.com. If you want to find our older episodes, read our show notes, or send us your comments, visit the WDW Today website at wdwtoday.com. For Len Testa, Mike Scopa, Mike Newell, the fabulous Annette Owens, and Fred Hazelton, I'm Matt Hochberg. We'll see you on the next show.
Stupid Judy, stupid energy.
This has been a production of Mouse World Radio.